my speaker for the night. And when I first heard this guy speak years ago, he was talking about shooting crack in the bathroom with the lemon juice, and I immediately knew, like, I like that guy, right? So I related to him very much. And the speaker is going to be Kyle. Hey.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Aquilino. I'm alcoholic. I wasn't going to share that bit with y'all, but since it's out there, I will tell you, Robin, the crack and heroin was amazing. Unforgettable, for sure. Really high on my list of things to do on the way to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I knew I was going to end up in Alcoholics Anonymous, I never would have did that stuff. It's bad for you. So anyway, Thank you, Jeff. Congratulations to all the celebrants and everybody picking up chips, counting days. I love this group. This group absolutely changed my life. There's some people in here still here today from the first time I came here, and I'm super grateful for them, and I'm super grateful for everybody else I've met along the way. I'm a member of this group, and so I only have a little bit of time, so I can't get into too much, but I was born in Philadelphia. Well, I was born in Philadelphia, wasn't in the area. But I was born in Philadelphia. I thought was, I guess every kid thinks it's normal until you don't, you know what I mean? Until I was like 6 and I realized we were poor, and that was different. And I remember I busted my teeth out on a basketball court floor, and my mom, single mother, took me to a dentist with a sense of humor, and he gave me big fake buck teeth, which there's no point to do that when they're fake. And I remember getting in a lot of fights and getting made fun of over these. And I was a confrontational guy. I could still be a confrontational guy today. I have to try to shy away from violence. And I remember getting in a lot of fights as a kid over that. And I remember being super self-conscious about these stupid buck teeth, and that we lived in a basement of a row home, where if you've ever been to Philadelphia, a row home, you should have all 3 floors of it, right? And around 6 or 8, I realized my buddy Jimmy, 2 doors down, his family, and he had a mom and dad and sisters and brothers, and I had just a mom and no siblings. And she did the best she could. As a single mother, she was a waitress, and I was so embarrassed of her back then. I was so embarrassed to live in this basement. It had these little jumping spiders, and I knew I was never going to be like that. I hung out with this terrible group of kids, really, and I don't know why I have kids today. I don't know that I'd let them hang out with people like this, but I mean, these kids were drinking and doing stuff pretty young, like 9, 10 years old. They're smoking weed and drinking beers, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about this. In Philadelphia, we don't have woods to drink in. We drink in cemeteries. The closest one to my house was a Jewish cemetery, so that's where we would carry on. Just going to throw that out there for anybody who's overly sensitive. But we would hang out in this Jewish cemetery all the time, and these kids would get drunk, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. My dad did that stuff. He's a loser. I signed a DARE pledge, and I meant business with the crash car, and I was never going to be like that. And I was dead serious, you know what I mean? And for whatever reason, it was the first night of spring break in my 9th grade year, and anybody who's from up north or been up north that time of year, it's still very cold. It was freezing rain that night, and they had a bottle of Old Crow. They loved Old Crow whiskey. When I hear somebody talk about Old Crow, I still just get that, those butterflies. I'm like, hell yeah. It was like $2 for a handle, which was really just top-notch stuff. I can still smell it today. It has a citrus in it. Ugh. And Old Crow was going around, and they had some other stuff going around, and for whatever reason, I partook that night. I felt like a man, and I'm telling you, man, for the first time in my life, I did not care about those buck teeth. I did not care that I was poor. These kids that I grew up around that I kind of felt different from, that they just kind of I felt like they like Luke said, they tolerated me, you know what I mean? But I was an idiot, and I felt like, I was just one among many, right? And alcohol didn't make me 10 feet tall and bulletproof like I hear some folks in Philly. There's a lot of bullets flying around. I promise I didn't stand up for those. But it made you guys a lot friendlier, and it made the world a lot safer. I was always I didn't know that I was full of fear back then until I got here, but I was just so full of fear of everything. And that night some people say that there's an invisible line we cross, that maybe you were born an alcoholic, maybe not. I don't know. I think I was. I know that I had the allergy that night because I did not plan on getting in any kind of trouble. I have a shadowy recollection of the rest of that evening, and I remember waking up in a hospital bed, handcuffed to the bed, butt naked with a broken elbow, and a bunch of pissed off family members standing around me, which was a condition I was to wake up in for years to come. And I got alcohol poisoning, pneumonia, and some little criminal charges, underage drinking, stuff like that. And I remember my grandparents were there, which was really weird. They lived in Florida at that point, and they were all looking down at me on this bed. And I don't know if you've ever had alcohol poisoning or just a real bad hangover. I'm sure you are if you're here. But you just have that splitting headache where just like the light, you open your eyes and the light hurts, and it's just that skin crawling feeling. And I remember them they weren't even really that mad. They were always pretty forgiving people, and they were like, did you learn your lesson? And I was like, oh yeah, 100%, not going to do that again. But in the front of my mind, I was like, this is such a small price to pay for that 5 to 15 minutes of feeling comfortable. I don't really remember much of the rest, but this is small potatoes to pay for that feeling I had. And it was kind of like the Fresh Prince story, they got one little bit of trouble and they sent me down to Florida to live with my parents, or live with my grandparents. And I had already found the solution to life. You see, alcohol was never my problem, it was always my solution. I had a sobriety problem. And one of the first times I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and heard that, it was monumental to me, because I had always heard and been told, drinking's your problem. Thank you, Jeff. Crack is your problem. And those, fair assumption from the outside, from the outsider looking in, that's a fair assumption. They were problematic, but my main problem was centered in my mind when I was sober. My main problem was that when I was sober, I couldn't connect to another human being. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't know how to break that impenetrable barrier between you and me. I don't know if you guys feel like that, but alcohol and some other stuff did that for me. Crack never did, by the way. It made me crazy. I would run from people who weren't chasing me, little pieces of shells that I'm picking out. It doesn't matter, but alcohol did it for me real good. Alcohol fixed that problem for a long time. And like it says in Bill's story, I formed a boomerang, a weapon that would one day in its flight turn and cut me to ribbons. And that's exactly what this deal was for me. This was a weapon for me. This was a way that I could connect no matter where I was. He asked me to speak in front of 200 people. Perfect. Bring a flask. You know what I mean? And if you didn't catch a bunch of charges or do any of this stuff, I'm not any kind of authority on Alcoholics Anonymous. I just have my story. But I did. I caught a lot of charges, and I ended up doing stuff like Jeff had mentioned. And I was, when you do stuff like that, my parents, at least, who loved me to death, told me you can either leave the house or you can straighten up. It's your choice. And at 17 years old, I said, I'm out of here. That's fine. And I was homeless from 17 to 25 when I sobered up. And it's a weird thing being homeless. Anybody's been homeless, like in the woods homeless, not couch surfing homeless. It's strange being out there at 17. It's like, it's a dog eat dog world out there. And they're not trying to be helpful, even when they seem really helpful. And that's the life I chose to live. And I remember at 18, I got a DUI. It was like a week after I turned 18. And the funny thing is, in Bill's story, which I didn't relate to for years because he's an old World War I stockbroker and I'm like a homeless idiot. Kelly was talking about all these achievements Robin had. And I'm like, man, I had none. I had none. Although I thought I was like some real smart guy. And But business and financial leaders were Bill's heroes, and they were mine too, but just in a different form, like drug dealers, guys that made money, like wise guys, people that made money doing illegal things. Those were like the coolest people ever to me. And they all went to jail. So when I was 18, I was like, all right, cool. This is like earning stripes. It's going to be cool. I'm going to get out and have gutter bravado. And I go in there and I'm a baby face, man. And when I'm getting loaded, I'm like 115 pounds, and I go in there and it's like 4 o'clock in the morning and they're yelling off the top tier. And I was real scared, tough guy, real scared. And I did what all tough guys from Philadelphia do. I immediately got on the phone. I called my mom. I said, they're going to kill me. And you got to get me out of here. And I said, if they're going to make me join a gang if you don't, you know what I mean? And I have no choice, that's the life we're living in here. And she did, she got me right out of there. She didn't hesitate at all. I was out there a couple hours later. And now the funny thing is, I was immediately back to getting loaded because that was certainly not the problem. I had some bad luck that night. And I was telling people did time, no big deal. I'm like some kind of hardened criminal when really I'm a sissy. And the good news is when you keep living that life, you get more used to it and you kind of settle into that sort of thing. And I've had more charges along the way. But the cool thing about it is that if you get a DUI, and also not a qualification of alcoholism, but if you do, they force you to come to these meetings. And I was 18, and I went to a meeting in downtown New Port Richey on Main Street there, and you could still smoke in the meeting. And I remember this guy had the oxygen cart tank with the nose, and he was smoking a cigarette, and it was a cheap cigarette. And I'm the kind of guy who can judge you from homelessness. And I love cigarettes, and my favorite cigarettes are somebody else's. But if I ask you for one and you hand me a cheap, I don't even want to say because it's probably in your pocket and I don't want to offend you. If it's not a Newport or a Marlboro menthol, you're beneath me. Now, I'd been homeless for over a year at the time. I had nothing going on. My pants look like Swiss cheese. I have blood stains everywhere. And I will judge you for the cigarette that I'm bumming off of you. Now, the funny thing is I'll take little cigarette butts out of the ashtray when I'm real desperate, unravel them and roll them up myself. But anyway, this guy was reading how it works, and he was smoking a cheap cigarette, and he had the oxygen tank. And I remember him as an 18-year-old kid, he was saying, if you decide you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it. And I was like, I don't think so, man. I got it going on. Like, I definitely have this under control. You guys are idiots. No, I don't say that because all I ever wanted in this life was for your approval. Even if I hate you, I want your approval so bad. So I'm like, I'll do anything. Or I'm not even going to say his name. I'll do anything you tell me. Please, like, shut. But in the front of my mind, I'm like, forget it, pal. And I would go back, and my mom and stepdad had let me back in at the time because now I'm just doing some whatever. I call it I don't know, it's like sobriety light, you know what I mean? Just drinking on Sundays or something. And me and my stepdad would make fun of the people down at AA, and we would have some beers together. And it would be a short time before I stole something and was off on another run. And the cool thing is that, you hear a lot of people talk about the seed gets planted. And I know today that the seed only gets planted in the mind of an alcoholic. Right? Some 18-year-old kid who goes there and is not an alcoholic and just got a DUI and a little bit of trouble probably never thinks of us again. I thought about you guys for years, and for occasionally, or more than occasionally, you could see me pop into these AA meetings over the next, 5-6 years. Sometimes I just needed a cigarette. Sometimes when I found out they would buy you food, that was an in for me. But sometimes I was really showing up here because I was out of gas, and I really wanted to stop drinking, and I don't know if I was presented with a solution. Perhaps I was not hopeless enough. I don't know. But I don't remember being presented with one. And I met a core group of guys that were members of this group. Some of them had started this group, and this group was not as big as it is now. And I was a home group member at which is crazy because I was like still drinking every night, but I had a home group. And that's an alcoholic trait, by the way. If you have a home group and you're going to AA 3 times a day and drinking every night, that's not good. And that's what I was doing. And but I met these guys, and they were like, "Oh, you got to come to our group. Sandy B is speaking." And I'm like, I don't even care what women have to say at all. Like, why would I go see some woman, Sandy? I could care less of. No offense, I've had a profound alteration in my perception, but back then I could care less of what some woman had to say. Well, right? So I could separate myself from anybody. Just if you are a woman and you're offended right now, if you're 30 seconds older than me, you're old. If you're 30 seconds younger, you're a kid. If you're black, I'm white. If you're from Florida, I'm from Philly. Like, I can do this with you name it. I can separate myself in seconds. And I, for whatever reason, I said, fine, I'll go see this chick. I'd really wanted a chick at the time. So maybe she had a little money and she'd take care of me. And I show up, and this old man standing at this podium right here. So it's an honor to stand at the same podium as that guy did. It really is. And I have profound respect for that guy today. And it was his first talk that he had gave since his daughter had been murdered by another AA member. It was the first talk he gave was right here. And I'm like in a lucid interval at this time, and this guy was, and I'm not a forgiveness guy, and you guys will, I know that probably shocks some of you. I don't forgive anybody. Bobby Calisi bullied me when I was 8, and I'm going to make it right. And, but this guy he got up there and he talked about forgiving the guy who murdered his daughter immediately. Like, not in 30 days, not in 6 years from then, it was immediately. And I remember being, I don't know, I don't think I was drunk that night, but I know I wasn't like sober, back then, if I was like just on my prescribed Xanax, I would tell you I was sober and I meant it. But he was talking about that, and I was like, whoa, like that is next level. I remember that hitting me like right where I was sitting, and I talked to him outside a little bit, and I remember like, you know, when you meet some of these profound spiritual people that God is really working in and through, you cannot help but like, wow, you know what I mean? And a lot of, I know there's some heavy hitters tonight who are much closer with him than I ever was. And I remember that leaving an impact on me. And I remember, I didn't get sober then, but I did remember this group of guys who were happy and sober at the same time. And that was remarkable to me because I had no idea that could exist, being happy and sober at the same time. And I get another charge, and I'm really, really whacked out at this point in my life. I'm 25 years old. I've been homeless since 17, and I'm really just not doing well at all. And I get put on mail-in probation. Anybody ever mail-in probation? Right. Trish, wow. Now, mail-in probation should be very, very easy. No testing. You don't even have to see your probation officer. You mail back then, a $75 check to Hillsborough County for 2 years, and you're good. I can't come up with $75 in 30 days. And I have every intention of making this. This is the easiest probation I've ever had. And I cannot come up with $75. I'm months behind. And I'm on one of these runs where, just like we were talking about, I think people are chasing me. I'm staying up for weeks at a time, and it's getting real scary out there. And I go, maybe I was willing to do whatever it took at that point in my life. And I remember I met a guy, he's in the back of the room now, this guy Eric, who I also judged in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember he would meet me, and he would take me to the A Club, and he would take me to Burger King. I like steak. He would take me to Burger King, and he would give me half of his 305 cigarettes, which were also beneath me. But at that point, I was really, really desperate. And I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I get with these guys. I do the steps. I get sober quickly, just like I got loaded quickly. I did not waste time doing the steps either. And I had a crazy experience, and my life got good really quick. And the reason I bring up Eric is I found out years later that Eric was homeless at that time, just getting sober. And he was willing to help some idiot like me who was not even trying to do anything but take his cigarettes and eat his Burger King that I was judging. And this guy was probably, I don't know, a couple months sober at the time, just doing whatever he could to help another alcoholic. And when I was told that, and me and him got closer and we started fishing and hanging out, it was another one of those moments where we were like, wow, like some people are really doing this stuff. You know what I mean? Some people are actually doing this stuff. And that was something else that moved me, and still, you know, it's powerful in my life today. But just like Steve-O was talking about, it's funny too, right? I sponsor Steve-O. Steve-O has more time than me today. And I sponsor Steve-O, and I'm telling him this morning, you're gonna get your ass up there and get that chip, and you're gonna tell these people what's going on, regardless if it's good or bad, and that you could stay sober through it. And you fast forward about 5 hours, and my home life sucks right now, and I don't want to slander anybody, so I'm not going to get into that. But I've had just some stuff going on that sucks, and I don't know how long I'm going to be in that home or in that family. And so 5 hours goes by, and I call Chris here, and I said, I'm not coming. He says, you're the main speaker tonight. I said, I don't care. I said, and I don't plan on telling anybody else, so figure it out. And he's as I'm texting, he's calling, and I'm like, if I answer, I know he'll talk me into coming. And he did, and he said, just get up there and tell him what you're going through right now, that you can stay sober through this stuff. So anyway, I stay sober in that stretch about 6 years, and I sponsor a lot of guys, and I had a true spiritual experience, and helping others took me to some cool stuff. Like I went to Africa, like I went to the International in Atlanta with these guys when I had about a year sober, and just really cool stuff. But the crazy thing about God and AA, for me anyway, is anything that has ever made me feel good, I'm like willing to kick into overdrive and chase to homelessness. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but Alcoholics Anonymous and God can make me feel so good and can help me recreate my life, right? Alcoholics Anonymous did not give me my life back. It gave me a life worth living. And it can get so good that I just kind of back away. And it doesn't happen all at once. It's just like you get a good job because you're sober and you're doing stuff, or you get like a new girlfriend, which was, both of them were my experience at the time, and she had some kids, and I can rationalize to myself that I'm being a good guy. I'm a family man, and I'm working for a future, and blah, blah, blah. I'm driving this truck, and I hate my job, and I hate my life, and I hate my girlfriend, and I hate all of you, really. And we were always splitting up and getting back together. And on one particular night, we were split up, and she was with some guy, and I kicked the front door in, and he pulls a gun on me, and I'm like pretty much begging him to kill me. And that was like a Wednesday or something, and I come to my home group Friday, right? Because meeting makers make it. And right, I'm at my home group, pissed off, and I still got some. I'm a barber, and I stay somewhat connected, and I'm trying to get this guy's name and his address and where he works, because that's an obsession, and not good. And I'm ready to go kill this guy, and I get the text midway through the meeting, and I'm sitting right where Thomas is, or probably right where Luke is sitting. Nice to sit in that spot. He's a 2-minute guy, and I get the text. I said his name is so and so. His address is this. This is where he works. This is she's got 2 kids, whatever, and I'm gone. I go over to her house, and she's out front drinking, and just as carelessly as it was a Mike's Harder Lemonade, which is a sissy beer for a guy who likes Old Crow and crack. And I picked this Mike's Harder up, and I drank it just as carelessly as though it was ginger ale with about 6 years of sobriety. And the allergy, like our book talks about, I don't have any reservation that alcohol will not affect me in a certain way after a certain period of time. I took it, this allergy kicked off, I was on a run pretty quickly. Picked up some other things that I like to do that apparently Jeff likes to do too, and some other people like to do. And I was supposed to be gone 5 minutes because I said I'm going to the liquor store, because that's what a man does. And I'm going to get a bottle of whiskey, and I returned like an hour later, and I'm already drinking and driving now. I'm like halfway through this bottle of whiskey, and I'm on a run, and I got like this big $10,000 bonus check at work, and I knew AA, I know the book, and I was not like mistaken or didn't believe. Like I knew I was spending every dollar of that bonus, but I was going to return Monday. I was going to come back to AA Monday and restart, and I remember calling Steve, right? I sponsored Steve, and that's why he has more time than me now. So I called him, and I called a bunch of other guys I sponsored. I said, I'm drunk, find somebody else. And they thought I was kidding. I was like, no, I didn't do the sober, trying to hide out in AA thing. And I'm telling you, man, this allergy is crazy. Stuff happened so quick, I couldn't put my hands around it. Like within 24 hours, my girlfriend has overdosed. She's blue to the touch. She's cold. Our daughter is trying to wake her up, and I'm trying to get the daughter out of the room because the wife is dead. And I'm like calling 911. They're like, "Can you do CPR?" I'm like, "I'm a truck driver and a barber. No." And I've cracked this poor girl's what do they call that, chest plate doing CPR. And when stuff like that happens, DCF, rightfully so, comes and takes your children, because you can't be overdosing around small children. So if you've lost your children, I know what that's like as well. So a couple days later, DCF comes, takes our daughter, and it's probably a week after that before I'm driving a truck for a living. I'm already in 2 accidents. Like, it just happened so quick, and I can't drive this truck no more. I tell them, like, look, I don't know what to do, but I can't drive anymore. I'm not sleeping. I'm not drawing any sober breaths. Monday has come and gone pretty quickly. And it was 6 months before I sobered back up. And but I knew if I could just get rid of this damn woman, she was the problem. And if I could get rid of her, like, everything would go right back to hanging out with these guys right here. And she was on probation, and she gets strewn away to rehab, and I'm like, perfect. I call the guys, I'm coming back, baby. And I stayed sober like another, 4 or 5 weeks, or stayed loaded another 4 or 5 weeks. Couldn't sober up, and I get a sponsor, and I had tried some other sponsors in that time. And at this time, which I love what Pat said, it's totally about the quality. It is not about the time at all. There's guys with much less time than me that I would take what Caleb has any day of the week over some people with 20 years around here. And I'm trying these guys with time, because I've got a lot of knowledge, and I need somebody with a lot of knowledge. And the second they would misquote something or tell me the wrong history, I'm like, idiot. Homeless, well, I'm not homeless, right? Because my mom was letting me stay there. Me and my junkie girlfriend are staying on mom's couch. So once again, judging you from the gutter, because you said, it wasn't, you know, you might have said Father's Day instead of Mother's Day, 1935. And I'm like, you're an idiot. And I didn't like that you gave me tomato soup. I'm still a steak guy. And but anyway, I get this sponsor, and he was just what the doctor ordered. And he did just like how Working with Others talks about in regards to religion, but with the big book. He said, dude, you probably know that book better than I do. You probably know AA's history better than I do. He used to say whatever, bro, a lot. But he said, but whatever, bro. He's like, you can't stay sober. And he took me through the steps quickly once again, and I sobered up quickly once again. And my life got really good quickly once again. And that was Memorial Day of 2020. So it was really weird too, because we got this COVID thing going on. And there's no AA to go to, which sucks, by the way. So if something like that happens again, please keep your meetings open. Even if it's just people who aren't scared of the coronavirus, there are new people out there who need in-person meetings and need a handshake and need face-to-face contact and somebody to talk about, because I was trying the Zoom thing, and you could turn the camera off and you can do your thing right during the meeting and nobody knows any better. I'm a guy that needs face-to-face contact. And but anyway, I get sober and life got good again. I was able to finish school, which I thought I was flunking out of. You're my 2 minute, right? I got 2 minutes? Okay. I asked that same girl to marry me, who was sober a few years at the time again. We have a little boy, and his name is Kyle Jr., and he's truly the kid's the world to me. I don't have time to get into everything, but I've had a freaking kick-ass life thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous and God and all you guys. And sometimes life sucks, right? And I like what the book says. Like, I wouldn't trade the worst days then, or my worst days now, for the best of then. And I used to take that the wrong way and be like, no, my best day drinking was great. I would never be here if it was terrible. I promise you, I had great times drinking. But I understand a little different today, that I wouldn't trade the life for this life today. And a few weeks ago, I caught my wife doing some very dishonest stuff, and apparently it's been going on for a good long time. And I don't know what to do. You know, I'm in a place where I don't know. No idea. Just like where Steve-O's at. I don't know if I'm packing the bags and leaving right now. I don't know if I talk to the lawyer. I have no clue what I'm up to right now. But thank God for me, I'm in a way different place today, where it's funny too, because I had like 5 or 6 new guys ask me to sponsor them like in a week. And I remarked to my wife, something's coming, because God's giving me work right now. And she goes, you're an a-hole, and why can't you ever just accept anything good? And like a week later, I'm like, oh. And these guys are all not all of them are doing the deal, but I got a couple of them who are like interested in the work, you know, and it's really cool to watch. And I truly know that sort of stuff is saving my life right now. Staying close to you guys and to this all-powerful God, because I came in here with a God that was terrifying, and that's why I didn't like reading the shade, because I could read when I get here. I'm smart. Real smart. Too smart, really. And but staying close to you guys and growing in a relationship with His power, I've been able to handle this somewhat good. And I'm not perfect at it. And the last thing I said to my wife before I left to come to this meeting and talk to you about spiritual principles was, go F yourself. You're the worst thing that ever happened to me. Right? We had a knockdown fight, minus the knocking down, because I try not to get violent anymore. Progress, not perfection. So I still screw this stuff up, and but I know how to try kind of right this ship and just do whatever is put in front of me. And when I'm asked to come to Alcoholics Anonymous and speak, because it's Jeff's anniversary, and congratulations, guys, I just do what I'm told. I do whatever's right in front of me, and that's the most amazing thing in my life today for a guy who hates authority and doesn't do anything you guys tell me. Like, for me to just still take simple orders today is truly a blessing, and it's the only reason I'm here, and I thank you guys for that.